Is that how you say it? Niche?
Yeah, I say niche. Some people say niche, but
Niche.
honestly, I think they're both correct. Fill it out.
Okay, Friday morning.
Welcome to this episode of Think Like a Producer. This is one of our starter 5 episodes where we're covering the most frequently asked questions. So definitely check out the other videos for this intro series, if you will. And today we want to cover something that we get asked all the time because of the kind of clients we work with. And these are influencers, people who have big followings and they have something called a personal brand. You probably already know what a personal brand is. So we're covering today the pros and cons of personal brands because there are pros and there are also cons. And this is a relevant conversation to media production, podcasting, what we talk about on the show, because if you take a minute before you get deep into the world of media production and think strategically about the long-term goals for your business and your brand, it makes a huge difference in what you can do down the road if you've built a bunch of content that's aligned with those goals. So we're going to cover the pros and cons of having a personal brand. We're going to give you some great examples to kind of explore, real life examples of people we think have done a great job making a strategic decision. And then we also want to just give you a few questions to ask yourself if you're unsure yet. Do I want to invest in a big personal brand or do I want to go another route? So this episode will hopefully be very helpful strategically, and we have a lot of good resources for you. So Tiff, do you want to start? Give us the pros of having a personal brand.
So the very first thing that Christine and I thought of when we were thinking of pros was that you get to be a thought leader and authority in the space that you love. So the good thing about having, first, let's say, Tiff Tyler, right? The video producer, the production, is that when people think video production or think media strategy or marketing, they will come to me, right? And they'll know like I'm the person to go to. Having my name on it as opposed to a brand, they know that they're getting more of a personal touch when they come to me. They know they're getting my personality, my opinion in the space. So that's just a brief pro that I would say. Of course, in the audio, we kind of go into a few more details of pros. But Christine, I think it'd be great to mention a con of a personal brand that some people do not think about.
With pleasure. So, yeah, obviously, Tiff and I both have personal brands. All of our clients have personal brands. This is the space we work in. There's a ton of good reasons to have a personal brand. We obviously live in the age of the influencer, but there's some cons. So, just to take a step back, it's really important to think about where do I want my business or my brand or what I'm involved with doing to be in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years. If you've listened to some of these top influencer personal brands that everyone knows, Tony Robbins, Lewis Howes, Gary Vaynerchuk, if you listen to these guys who've been in the business decades, they talk about, I kind of wish I could have gone back in time and built a company that wasn't just associated with my name, because now they're at a point of success in their career where they would like it to be bigger than them, and they would like to be able to bring other people in. They would like to be able to retire and hand off their really successful brand, but they can't because it's their name. You can't let someone else take over for your personal brand. It doesn't work. The authenticity isn't there. And of course, they can do amazing things. It's not like, woe is them. But we've heard Tony talk about this. We've heard Lewis talk about this. We've heard people publicly discuss the challenge of getting to a certain level of success, decades down the road, and realizing I can't let anyone else be me for me. I have to keep showing up day in and day out. My face is the face, my voice, my thoughts are the things people will pay for. And so there, over time, if you are thinking big, if this resonates with you, it's important to look down the road and say, do I want to build my brand into something bigger than me, that I can bring in a whole team and have someone else be the CEO and the president and have people love the brand even more than they love me? Or no, when I'm done, I'm done, and that's fine, and I'm good with it, and I don't want to build something bigger than me. That's the strategic difference that we've heard a lot of top-level influencers sort of discuss publicly, and so we want to bring that up early in this series in this show because it is important. And we have some cool examples to share with you. And then we'll give you some questions to ask yourself if you're like, I don't know. We've got some good questions. So just a few examples. Tiff kind of led us into this. So Gary Vaynerchuk, one of our favorites, you already know him most likely. Social media king. I mean, truly like a visionary in the world of marketing and social media. He has an incredible personal brand, Gary V. I mean, that's all you have to say, Gary V, and you know who we're talking about.
Right.
But he's also built very strategically a super successful, very large media company. It's an agency called VaynerMedia, and it has different branches. And so Vayner Talent, Vayner Sports. So VaynerMedia is his company, the brand bigger than him. Sure, it bears his name, but it's way bigger than him, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And then there's Gary V, the personal brand. Now, Gary is a unicorn. I mean, he's the first to say this. So don't just assume because Gary did this, I'm going to do it. He is super unique, but he's an example that you can technically do both, but that's what it would look like. And I mean, he's playing on a massive scale and he's Gary. So that's what he does. So that's an example of the distinguishing between having your company, which is a much bigger brand than you, and having your personal brand. And the truth is, everyone already has a personal brand, right? And we live in a world where your Instagram account or your website or just how people talk about you, in your friend groups, that's your personal brand. So we all have one. The conversation we're having in this episode is how strategic are you thinking about your brand, and is it doing the thing you want it to do? So, Tiff, give us an example of someone who has their personal brand as their main thing, and then they have kind of their company as the back burner one.
Yep. Is this Chase?
No, it's Marie, but you can do Chase.
Where am I going with this? Hold on. I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit. Okay. So,
you know what? I could just talk about her, and then I can give the Sarah example, and then I can give it back to you to cover. These are the questions to figure out your strategy, and then you can do all the last part.
I'm just going to stay here and smile.
I think we should just go with the flow and realize it'd just be easier if I just okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, cut the last 5 minutes. Picking back up with me. Okay. Okay. So here's an example of someone who has consciously put her personal brand before her business. So her personal brand is bigger than her business. She has a great business, but her personal brand is kind of what's up front. This is Marie Forleo. Again, someone you probably know about, a super successful entrepreneur. She's the host of an awesome web TV show. She's been life coaching and business coaching for years. I mean, she's very successful. And her personal brand, Marie Forleo, is absolutely what people know. She has a product that makes her a lot of money that's kind of the backbone of her business. It's called B School. It's an online business school that she launches once a year. But B School is not nearly as well known as Marie Forleo. Marie leads with her personal brand. She's done it for over a decade. She's been many different things as her personal brand: a fitness and dance instructor, a life coach, a business coach, a show host. I mean, she's a best-selling author. She has a lot of things under her personal brand, but it's a really strong, really successful one because she has consciously chosen, this is where I'm leading from. And then she has a really successful product that's her business. It's B School. So that's kind of what it looks like, and it totally works for her. It's awesome. Now, on the flip side, one of our very favorite role models in entrepreneurship is Sara Blakely. She's the founder of Spanx, the women's shapewear company that everyone knows about because it's uber successful, billion-dollar business. And Spanx is way bigger than Sarah's personal brand, right? You hear Spanx, you immediately think of the shapewear that celebrities wear on the red carpet, like your mom might wear it, you might wear it. I mean, everyone has stories and references for Spanx. But until just a couple years ago, a lot of people had no idea who Sara Blakely was because she hadn't really invested in her personal brand at all. She'd built a super successful billion-dollar business, and she hadn't felt the need. And a couple years ago, she realized, I'm going to start an Instagram account and start sharing more of what else I'm up to. And she has so many fans now because she's amazing. And she shares, pictures of her making pancakes with her kids on Saturday mornings and the crazy adventures she and her husband are doing. And she has an amazing personal brand. But still, even to this day, her personal brand consciously is not as big as her actual company. And that works for her. So that is a few examples of how to think the difference between a personal brand and your actual company brand, and how to realize, oh, it can be successful either way, but what do I want it to be? So going over to you, Tiff, what are some questions and what are some strategic ways if someone's trying to figure out, do I want to invest big in my personal brand, or do I want to go this other route and really invest in my company's brand?
Yes, long-term goals. Like Christine mentioned earlier, where do I want to be in 10, 15, 30 years? It's not to say that you shouldn't start a personal brand or anything just because you don't maybe want to be like a personal brand in 30 years. It's all about where you're spending your time. So if you decide that you are going to build your personal brand from now, then you're just going to spend a lot of time into that, like you mentioned, being on social media, letting people know that you're an authority in the space. These are the questions. Do I have a team that can help me both build my personal and my business brand? Is it just me? And which one would I want to focus on first? Personality type. Now, I will say, shout out to all the introverts because I am an introvert. I know people do not believe it because I put on a very good show of not being an introvert. However, introverts can still have the personality type to build a personal brand. Christine is an extrovert. I think you get way more energy from being around people than I do. But does it make you happy to kind of live out loud, to show your lifestyle, to talk a lot on camera? Even if you're a little bit nervous about it right now, do you want to get good at something like that? Because then a personal brand might be your thing. If you're like, no, the camera terrifies me, I never want to try it, it's not an interesting thing to me, then maybe ask yourself that if building a business brand now that doesn't have your name on it would be the best thing for you. So those are just a couple things for you to ask yourself. And like I said, my biggest emphasis is always on time. So if you're by yourself, like what do you really want to put that time into? If you're with a team and you have people and you have access, like Christine and I, thankfully, we were able to collaborate with a couple of cool creators to make this show for you. We could build a bit more of an umbrella of think like a producer instead of this having to be the Tiff and Christine show. Like, so just that we think about it. We thought about it before we even brought this to you. And please let us know if this resonated with you, if you've heard things that you haven't heard about before. I think one person that really stands out to me is Chase Jarvis. Being a photographer, being a creator like I am, and having, Chase Jarvis photography before he had his Creative Live. And so when he would show up for photo gigs or maybe even get overly booked when he was being a photographer, he had a hard time because everyone wanted to see him. So he couldn't really outsource his photography to other people. But Creative Live allows him to not be the sole instructor and only teach from photography and from his business sense. But he's got so many people in different areas and experts that can come in and teach. And he can just be the person that continues to advertise it and get it to where it needs to be. More of the CEO type. Plus, just another example of the creator side of it. Like Christine mentioned, there's Marie Forleo. We have Gary Vee. People have just come from all different angles. And so there really is no perfect answer, right? But hopefully this sparked some ideas for you so that you can get really clear, because there really isn't a default. You shouldn't have to have a personal brand. You shouldn't have to have a business brand. Whatever is going to work best for you. We just want you to be happy every day while you're doing it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Just a reminder, we do have a longer form of this version of what we're talking about here in the audio format. So Christina is going to tell you all the places you can listen to the episode.
Of course, you can always listen over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon. I mean, any podcast platform, you can look us up. We typically do a longer version of the episode over on audio. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review over there. It means the world. We read every single one. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we'll see you on the next episode of Think Like a Producer.
I was trying not to have coffee today. Okay. So drink water and a protein shake, you'll be fine. Like, no, this is why. Okay. So
please subscribe to our channel and be sure to hit the bell to be notified when new episodes drop. They'll come out every Thursday, and of course, a few bonus surprises in between.